Hello and welcome to episode 143 of Comm Talk, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions, a show from devoted geeks who are devoted to letting you know that you are loved. I'm Dallas. I'm so glad you've hit play on this podcast. Where you listen to us on Google Play, Apple Podcast, or Spotify, wherever you find podcast at. Hey, thank you for being part of the Geek Devotions community. This is going to be a continuation of last week's conversation. We're reviewing and discussing Geek'd Con 2022. This was originally going to be one long mega podcast. However, when I started recording the individual sections with the team, I realized that we're having really great lengthy conversation, and I didn't want to cut anything, and I want to give you guys everything that the team gave out. However, it's just really long. So this week is going to be a conversation between me, Kevin, and John. And I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Hope it encourages you. Hope it challenges you. Again, it gets a little bit silly at times, but we have some really, really great conversation, specifically dealing with a particular incident that took place at Geek'd Con with a particular, well, there was a protester at Geek'd Con. And John and Kevin and I have a really great conversation, insight into that whole situation, how God really did use it to bring glory to himself, even if it wasn't the way that that particular individual thought it was going to happen. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this podcast conversation.
Glix, what is going on?
We are receiving a signal from a new area on the planet Geekery.
All right, let's see what the planet has for us today.
Opening forms in 3, 2, 1.
All right, and we are now here with two amazing gentlemen. They are officially brothers. I think there might have been a blood pact that was formed during Geek'd Con between these two guys. That is Kevin Joshua Harju. Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin Joshua Burnham and John Harju. How you guys doing?
It wasn't a blood pact. It was just a lot of intense cuddling.
Oh my gosh. So Kevin and John, obviously they're part of the bottom shelf. Kevin is also the dapper man himself. And man, Kevin, I gotta tell you, you walked around the con floor and I think people thought you worked for the con the entire time.
Yes, they did. In fact, I even had a couple of people give me their cards and saying like, hey, if you have your photos on the site, please tag us. And I'm just like, that's great. I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to remember your tag, but I don't work here, but I will put it under that hashtag. So if you click on the hashtag for search, you can find it. Hashtag GeekCon 2022. Sorry, GeekCon 2022. And you should be able to find it just well. But I'm thinking about maybe doing another side gig or something. If this is going to be a real thing, man. Why not?
Rock, sweet, brother. And then, of course, John is also with the bottom shelf. He also does Casual Gamer Society and 20 other podcasts that are out there. John, how are you doing tonight?
It's all right. Hey, Kevin, you know what you should do next year? You should get your own table and let people rent you out by the hour to be a photographer. So people are like buying your services on the floor.
That's actually pretty lit.
Can I do that? Because people was trying to offer me cash to take their picture, and I wasn't sure if that was the moral thing.
You can always talk to them. You can always talk to them, and the worst they can do is say no.
Okay,
true.
Kind of like my family. I can do that.
All right, guys. So, questions for you guys.
Wait,
first
what
off,
questions?
Did you guys get anything cool?
What questions? You never told us. You never told us anything about asking questions on this episode. You just say we're just going to talk. Now there's questions. What are other hidden things do I need to know about?
Well, there's a dude sneaking up behind you. That's about it. So,
it's just me.
Did you guys get anything cool at Geek'd Con?
I got a lot of cool stuff from Geek'd Con when I was there. In fact, everything I got from Geek'd Con I think was cool. If I didn't think it was cool, I don't think I probably would have bought it.
What's the one thing that sticks out to you the most? I have the one thing that you got that sticks out in my mind the most.
I know something that John got. John got mosquito bites. He's got sweat, and he had like this heat rash and all kinds of. Was that pretty cool from Geek? Louisiana? No. No? Okay.
I was thinking about the audio recording you got of a certain somebody.
Yeah, that my newfound relationship with John Kassir. That's what I got. That's what I got at Geek'd Con that I'm think is probably the coolest thing.
Yeah.
No, that dude was cool. Like
Now,
Kevin, go ahead.
For those listening, who is that?
He is the voice of the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt. Like legit, I met a lot of celebrities at Geek'd Con this year. Like some of them you walk up and paid for them, but some of them you just interact with because Kevin and I were in the hotel that they were at.
And some you open the door for them and they're looking like, why are you opening the door for me? Get away from me.
That was Dog the Bounty Hunter. That's a completely every time I was around that guy, he just had this air about him, like he was embarrassed to be there. And I'm like, if this isn't your scene, homie, why are you here? I mean,
Right.
Well, he seemed like he was interacting with his fans when he went to his table, so maybe that's what it was. Because sometimes
That might be it.
certain people,
Yeah.
when you become a certain celebrity or a certain status, that they always hang around you. He's thinking that us two big white dudes are going to come up and say, "Oh, watch, they're going to ask for an autograph without payment or something." Like, no, we're not like that. So, who knows?
No, and in fact, okay, so the first time we met John Kassir was completely by accident.
Oh my goodness, that was actually quite lovely. That was cool too.
Kevin and I were jumping on the elevator in this hotel. We were going down to the car because we had to go run some errands real quick. Like most of my stories from the con are gonna start out with Kevin and I were, because like legit we were attached
My
at the
buddy,
hip for the entire.
My buddy and me.
But we were riding the elevator down, and when we hopped on the elevator, there's this guy on there. He had his shirt on that had the Crypt Keeper on it, and he was wearing the COVID mask, because some people still wear them, and that's okay. I believe in personal choice, and now that we're on the basis of personal choice, I believe that's how it should be, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, we get on this elevator and we're just chatting, and I noticed his shirt, and I'm just like, "Hey, you here for the con?" He's like, yeah. And he's just kind of talking about some folklore in other parts of the US about ghosts pushing cars and leaving handprints if you sprinkle the back of it with like baby powder and stuff like that. We're just kind of chatting. We get to the bottom. We're like, "All right, man, see you around." He's like, "Yeah, hey guys, see you later." And we stepped off. I looked over at Kevin. I'm like, I'm not entirely certain, but I think that was John Kassir. and Kevin's like, "I know, but I didn't want to be that guy."
You don't want to be that guy.
And so we go run our errands, and then the con opened for vendor night, and we're walking around. No, it wasn't on vendor night that we confirmed it. It was the next day.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was vendor night. Doesn't matter. No, it was vendor night.
And then we got to see him around.
Right. We on vendor night, we were walking around. We just kind of passed by the tables to see which if any celebrities were there for vendor night. He was sitting at the John Kassir table, and we were like, "Oh my God, it was John Kassir." And so second interaction with him, I had spent probably about an hour and a half waiting in line to meet Matthew Lillard and have him sign my DMG.
Right.
That guy, 100% class. But anyway, after I got done in Matthew Lillard's sign, I had sent a message because for all of you out there in listener land, we have a private Geek Devotions chat as well as a private The Bottom Shelf chat. And I had sent a message in our The Bottom Shelf chat, and I'm like, "Hey, if I can pay him do we want John Kassir to record a pre-intro for The Bottom Shelf?" And everybody's like, yeah. So I went over to his table.
Saving the money. I was about to go to Dave Ramsey. Let's go do free.
Well, a worker's worth his wages. I'll quote the Bible to you on that.
Yeah, I know. I said yes to. I'm just slagging.
I know, but I'm slagging back. So anyway, we head on over to his table, and we're like, I just figure I'd be cheeky, and I was just like, "Hey, good to see you again." he recognized Kevin and I, and we're like,
What?
ah! So everybody's got their thing at their table, what things they're priceless, signature X amount, picture, selfie X amount.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at John Cassier's table, he had the works, which was a picture, an autograph, and a recording of him just basically him recording the Crypt Keeper for you.
Right.
And so I paid for the works because I'm an autograph hunter. It's not something I do actively, but if I have the opportunity, I'm always going to have people sign stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, hey, look, I paid for the works. Would it be cool if the recording what I got was of you doing the pre-intro for the show that we do? And I explained the bottom shelf, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm all about that. That'd be totally groovy. And so I had my portable recorder on me because I was catching interviews on the con floor for the bottom shelf, and he banged out the interview. I'm not the interview, but the pre-intro.
Right.
And so that's going to live on the bottom shelf permanently, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm excited about that. I really am.
That was slick. And then he was just like, hey, you guys should show up to my panel at 1:00. And so there we were in the front row, and the entire time it was like he was talking at us, and I'm like,
it had something to do with us being
legit
on the front row, I'm presuming.
Maybe, but he still recognized us, and he flipped crap. He remembered some stuff that Kevin said and blatantly just called him out on it on the floor, which
is great.
I guess my form of communication is different from everyone else. That's fine. I just learned to live with that.
To be fair, you did kind of plug our panel in the middle of his panel.
All I said was I didn't get into voicing until it was with you, John. You helped me, and I appreciated that. And I'm getting more into voice acting because I wanted to do it. Because I would have not really considered it too much other than me pranking people on phone calls and delivering pizzas than actually talking to you. Trying to be a nice communicator, but apparently people take it as promoting. So I'm like, okay, well,
it's fine.
I should have given you playing games of stranger cards and the mezzanine card and all the other 28 podcasts you're part of.
Bro, you actually did give him a bottom shelf card. So
well, because he did ask, because after he did it, it's like, what is the podcast I'm actually doing? So I was like, and
right.
I remember you telling me like, hey, pass these cards out, and I was like, okay,
bro, you were pushing those cards heavily on the floor.
And you want to know how many followers we have now because I pushed those cards? You're welcome.
No, I'm not.
That's what I thought,
bro. I'm okay.
Hey, Kevin, back away from your microphone a little bit, buddy.
Why is everyone telling me what to do all day? All day. Oh yeah,
because you're loud.
Work. That's right. People get to tell me what to do when I'm at work.
Because you're loud and you're peaking. So Kevin, how about you, man? What's something cool you got at the con?
I got some pictures.
Okay.
Get some pictures.
Well, off the floor, I mean, I got to meet with some lovely people, cosplayers and so forth.
Right.
I got to talk to Maximiliano. I'm saying it wrong. I just say Max.
Maximiliano Hernandez.
Thank you. That I just never heard of anyone else named Maximiliano before, and so
it's a Hispanic version of Maximilian.
Okay.
True story.
I'm trying to think of how you say it. Maximiliano. Okay, yeah, got it now. Thank you. Yeah, got to talk with him because he is doing an independent film making and he's directing his film, so got to discuss about that because I was excited about that. And
that's cool.
Bro, you are downplaying that conversation. Homeboy was super into what you were doing, and he actually was just like, hit me up when you're done with that because I want to watch it. And you got some crazy networking going on, like with a Disney affiliated actor.
Yeah. So after I discussed it with him and I told him I was going to pay him by card, he's like, I'm sorry, man, I don't do card, cash only. But there's an ATM out there, or if you come back later with cash, I'm bringing back cash later. And I told him how much about films, and I love bad films and everything. He said, oh my gosh, I love bad films. I'm like, you love bad films? I love bad films. I'm like, well, I'm actually doing a podcast about bad films. Like, no way. Really? I gotta listen to that. Bring your cash and your card. So that plus, I have my friends as part of the podcast. Bring them too. So that's when I convinced you finally to come with me, and it actually worked out because we got a segment with that of a conversation, right, John?
We did. We got an interview
Let's
with
go.
Maximiliano Hernandez.
Yeah.
He has 2 recommendations that you'll hear in the Geek Con special for the bottom shelf.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
if you're a good person and a good Christian, you should listen to that. If you're not, then do not listen to it.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me ask you guys this. So we led a panel, as Kevin alluded to earlier, and try to get the Crypt Keeper to come to, apparently. So what was a highlight of that panel for you guys?
Not knowing the questions you were going to ask before you ask them.
Except for we kind of talked about it that Friday night.
Yeah, kind of. And then it went exactly the way you said it. It's like, okay, fine. Ask different questions that I have no idea what to answer it like.
So what was a win? What was something you liked about it?
I like that someone actually come up and ask some questions. Because I'm always kind of like that. I'm not sure. Not petrified, but always like worried in the back of my mind that people actually pay attention and actually cared enough to ask questions.
Right.
Because I guess with me, communication, if people don't ask me questions, I'm right here wondering like, oh crap, what did I said wrong? Because they're not asking nothing.
Right. I get that.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think like my big takeaway from that, like the thing I enjoyed most from that panel is just being able to, I mean, if we just break it down to the brass tacks, we kind of play characters on the bottom shelf a little bit. I mean, we're being ourselves.
Excuse you? I don't play character. I am me.
No.
Then you're a character.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Hear me out, Kevin, before you dive in. But you know, we're being ourselves on the bottom shelf, but we're being kind of a characterized versions of ourselves. Just a little cartoonier, a little.
There's a level
more,
of exaggeration in our
there's a little
personalities.
bit more. Yeah, there's a little bit more animation to us. I mean, Kevin and I slag each other, but I mean, not nearly as bad as we do when the tape is rolling, basically. So
yeah, I guess because that's why it was called ratings and E for everyone and so forth.
No, I get it, but I mean, it's just it was fun to be able to get animated in front of everybody. It was almost like we were doing a live version of the bottom shelf, except it was just 100% weak connections.
We might want to consider it next time. Just thought maybe
we could do it. I mean, there's a lot of ideas we could do next time, but I mean, it was fun to pull those out, and it was also a little bit fun to, you know, kind of get my preach on in front of a live audience. I don't do that very often.
Yeah,
right.
Especially with all 4 of us in the same exact room to communicate.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we do that online, whatever, but it's different when you're in person.
Oh yeah, the chemistry is totally different.
Oh, completely different.
Yeah. So that was always nice.
Dig it.
It's kind of. Oh, I was just saying it was kind of funny because like I told my sister that we were going to have a panel when we were at Geek Con. She's like, okay, Mr. General Anxiety Disorder, how are you gonna be able to do that? I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like if I go into performance mode, it's easy. I mean, I don't claim to understand my disease.
Right.
I'm like, but when I go into performance mode, it's super easy. I can ham it up on a stage. You take me off that stage and you get me one-on-one, or you stick me in a small group of people I don't know. Bro, I get watertight. It's just like not talking.
I know some people on the con floor that'd be one-on-one with you to talk.
You did really good though on the con floor with doing the interviews with people and interacting with people on a one-on-one basis. So I was actually really proud of you during that time frame.
I had to ramp myself up to do it.
Yeah.
You know, there was a couple times, you know, you can talk to your wife. When I was manning the booth, the majority of the time I was manning the booth, I was sending Dallas off to do Dallas things. He had a friend. Okay, so for everybody else out there, he had a friend there that he hadn't seen in like forever in the day.
Yep.
And
20 some odd years.
And so I was constantly popping in the booth, one, because I have a crappy back and standing and walking around all day just doesn't work for me. But two, I know that he had a friend there, and I wanted to give him time to hang out, and I wanted to give Celeste time to go take a breather or go see the con or whatever.
Or go more books in
So-
the library section.
Oh, that's another topic to discuss. But no, man, it was so the time, there was a few times I was there with Celeste, and I was telling her, I'm like, I haven't done any of these interviews yet, and there's a part of me I don't want to. It's just like, I might just scrap this. But I got on the last day, I picked up probably about 10 interviews, and I'm like, okay, we'll call it good.
So, well, there were a lot of people on the con floor, man. And you kind of put it out, like, there's a lot of people that they're just different. And honestly, us being there, I think, was important, because there are some people there that are just different, that are out there. I mentioned this.
Oh, you mean that person who was screaming at the Bible, yelling at people as they're walking inside the con?
I was actually getting to that point, because we actually had a young lady come to our booth who Celeste and I had to kind of talk her down, because that guy outside who was screaming at people, it triggered her anxiety level to like an nth degree. Like, she was having some issues when she came to the con floor, and then she found us, and so she started asking some legitimate questions about stuff. And we had to kind of talk her down. But like, us being there as not just as mostly functional men, but also as Christians who walk in peace, who walk in authority, talking with these people who are dealing with so many things. That's the benefit of us being there, is to be present and to bring hope to these people. Even just simple stuff like Kevin walking around taking pictures of all the cosplayers. I'd tell you what, Kevin, if you go back and review those pictures of those cosplayers, I recognize some of them, and I remember seeing them, like, some of them were questioning their cosplay, some of them were unsure of themselves. But when you said, "Hey, can I take your picture?" man, they lit up like a Christmas tree, and they're like, "Yes, please!" Like, that was that was your ministry, bro, all weekend long.
Most of them were very excited, and as for someone who likes to see people from working behind a theater and seeing the stage and watching people get dressed up, I see how you form that character and you just change to a different person, and you get super excited. Like, you look in the mirror. It's unless you're in the theater, you understand this. You put the makeup on, you look in the mirror, you're watching the details and everything else. It just gets you all like goosebumps and thrilled. And trying on different clothing, like, okay, this one doesn't fit this way. Put this one, I put to their tie right here. Put the hat in the slant. Put the it's just all these lovely things for you to do behind. And you're with other people. It's the same thing like cosplaying. You're right here getting dressed up, becoming a different character.
Right.
And I know how excited it gets. Depending on your budget, still, how low and how high it is, you still get excited, because it's just the beginning process of the steps you make until you further advance. Because, if you start off and you don't look that great, you still go around, you hang out with other people who do it, and you just take bits and pieces from what you see. Like, how do you do this? What do you do with that? Okay, there's something that gives me something to add on to my costume or whatever it is for next year.
Very good.
And I like that. I like to have that type of communication, and that's what I did when I took the pictures. Most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, I would ask, even the ones who felt a little weird and awkward. I seen how they were standing around. Some of them, I knew not to take a picture, because they kind of looked at me weird anyway. So, okay, I get that vibe, like, don't take my picture.
Right.
But most of the time, you always get someone's like, please take my picture. And I can't wait to look, because I actually feel like I'm wanted and desired. Yeah. And that's what we do here at Geek Devotions, right? We remind people that they are loved. There's a plan and a purpose for life. They're created and designed with purpose. Right. And the purpose is like right there at this moment, because the most important thing you're doing is like what I'm doing right now. The most important thing is communicating with you two. The most important thing the person's listening is me saying this pre-recorded probably 5 years from now, and you're right here finally listening. It's like, wow, I needed to hear that today. And that's what that's what the Word of God does. When the Word of God's in our hearts, we just we let that out.
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad you pointed out, like, we're putting something out and people listening to it randomly. On our TikTok earlier this week, I just did a quick video of just some encouragement, and some dude comments on it. He's like, there's no tags on this video. There's no comments on this video, yet somehow you end up on FYP, and FYP stands for you page. And it's like coming back is like, well, maybe it just means you need some encouragement. And the guy's like, I really do. And open up a dialogue with this individual. And again, that's part of that whole idea of purposely being present, presenting Christ in a loving way, in a caring way, just not being weird about it, not necessarily standing outside screaming at people and leaning over railings like certain individuals did.
The guy had a quick word with me up in that railing. You know what? I'm just now thinking, I only experienced that in 2 cons. The one at your city, Shreveport, and the one in Atlanta. I don't experience that at all whatsoever in Jacksonville.
Okay.
I never experienced that in Ocala or any other places here in Florida.
Doesn't happen here in Spokane either.
Yeah, it's like that guy is really determined to do that. And I think he was like saying something. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but it's like when you said it, and I was like, why is this guy so determined? Does he live to do this every year, or does he do other events too?
I don't know about other events, but he definitely does Geek'd Con. But I was talking with another cosplayer, I was talking with a couple other people this weekend, and they said that they've been to several cons here in the South. It may just be a Southern thing, and they see the same thing out there: protesters and people out there screaming at folks.
Okay, now go to Christian concerts. That's a totally complete thing. Those people are out there at the Winter Jam, the Toby Mac tour, or Jeremy Camp. When they come, those guys are out there and they're like, you need to listen to the word of God. Going into, you're not going to hear the word of God. And I'll be waving at them. It's like, maybe you should come inside because you're spending so much time on the outside, you don't know what's happening in here.
True story.
Whatever.
I'm on the outside, and I'm looking in.
I can see through you, see your true colors.
Well, here's the thing, and I had to back off on this a little bit during the panel because the Holy Spirit put a check on me because we brought that guy up a few times, and I'm just like, I don't want this to devolve into bashing the guy outside.
Sure, totally.
Because his heart is in the right place. He just wants to see people go to heaven.
Right.
His heart's in the right place. His method is wrong. And I want to be able to make that distinction as saying that, that man is confused as far as his method, but he's still a soul. Yeah. Jesus still loves him. And that's a delineation. If we speak anything against him, it's that we disapprove of his method of what he's doing, not necessarily of the man himself.
Totally. Well, and we're speaking to the fact that we saw the results of what he did.
Exactly.
And we had to walk in within what I would call damage control of what he did. And that's some of the passion that we have. That's the great balance. I'm glad you brought this up, John, because there is a balance of us presenting things to people about stuff. Even in my article I wrote about Geek'd Con on our website, geekdevotions.com, I put in there as like, methodology could be discussed. I think his heart was in the right place. I pray it was in the right place, but methodology definitely needs to be discussed. But our response is not coming from a place of, we don't like that type of ministry. There's a time and place for street ministry. The problem is we were dealing with the aftermath of that type of ministry not being done correctly.
Well, here, let me blow your mind a little bit because I've put some thought into it since the event has closed. I think if it weren't for the man outside,
totally.
If it
I know
weren't for
exactly
him,
where you're going.
We wouldn't have had as much of a response to what we were doing on the inside.
Absolutely.
To be perfectly honest, even if the seed's sown with the bad method, it can still be watered and it can still grow. And I think, maybe God put it on him to be out there so he can be the swatter that brought people to our table. It kind of makes me feel a little bit gross. Not gonna lie. But the fact of the matter is God knows what he's doing, even when I don't. And
well, the Bible does say God works all things out to our good and to his glory. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that he's purposely orchestrating terrible things, but that when there are things that aren't quite right, he's going to orchestrate it so it's done well, so that something good happens. And I think that's what happened. I legitimately pray that perhaps somebody heard what he was saying and they had a check in their spirit and God's moving in them. I legitimately, the Bible says the word does not return void. I just hope that the fruit's coming out of that's appropriate. And I'm thankful for the opportunities we've had on the con floor to talk with people and to show them a different side of Christianity, which is what we did at the panel.
I am coming back as Bible man.
Huh?
He's gonna. This was a conversation that Kevin and I had outside the con on the second day. It was next year cosplay as Bible Man, so you can watch Bible Man going into the con.
Yeah, we also mentioned the brief in the panel, so if you want to see the panel, it's on the YouTube video, right?
Yep.
Dallas on Geek Devotions.
That's it.
YouTube. Yeah.
I actually had an idea for you two for next year's cosplay. One of you needs to be Bible Man. The other one needs to get in touch with the guy who won the cosplay competition and get yourself a Superbook costume made. And then that's how you guys show up on the cosplay floor.
No. I got it. I'm going to show up as Salty.
Salty. I need you to inform people who Salty is.
Bro, that's old school right there. That's some OG Christian entertainment for kids.
Oh, wait, I'm thinking something different. I thought he was like a salt shaker. Wait, what? A salty?
No, Salty was like this was legit like coloring books and
was this like David and Goliath type? Oh
no, it was mostly my interactions with Salty was through tapes that my relatives used to send me when I was like 4. Salty was basically a anthropomorphic Bible that would interact with kids. He was like Christian Barney.
Oh Lord. Barney's already bad enough. Now you're at that.
Like there's a reason why Dallas got that look on his face, like the big OMG look when I said I'm gonna cosplay as Salty.
I have a question. I just realized. What about you, Dallas? What was the big thing for you on the floor?
Yeah, you didn't really answer your own question.
You asked us. What about you, Dallas?
Well, I get the opportunity to answer this a couple times because I'm talking about this with Celeste and another segment of this podcast. For me, a big win, and I'm saying this for you two guys, is seeing you two operate on the con floor with people. That was a win for me. Seeing you guys be able to operate in your own individual giftings and your own individual styles to love on people, to encourage people, to speak life to people. Like, to me, that was a win. I was excited to see that. I was thankful to have you guys on the team. I was thankful for the break that you guys provided for Celeste and I. But I was super excited to see you guys operate in what God has put inside of you guys. So for me, that's one of my wins.
We gave you a brick.
You gave me a brick.
Oh, I thought you said, I don't remember bringing that into the con.
he said it with an Irish accent.
No,
That's no Irish about Kevin.
Okay, I was wondering, like, I brought you a protein bar undisclosed.
And that saved Celeste's life. But for real, seeing you two, seeing Branson, I didn't unfortunately have the opportunity to go around to see Squid operating what she does, but I know for a fact Squid was doing some cool stuff over on her side with Danny. And then even my childhood friend John, serving in so many ways, and helping out Danny and helping out us. It was cool. And
I will tell you this about Frudiger.
Yeah.
When I say Frudiger, I'm referring to Dallas's friend John. We had some issues determining who we were talking about, so I've just started referring to him as Frudiger. But anyway, he was a cool cat. Like, dude,
yeah.
Me and Kevin ended up interacting with him a lot more than I had anticipated when he said he was going to be there. I thought we were going to have two different, like Dallas with Frudiger and then Dallas with us, sort of like Peter when he was around the Jews and then Peter when he's around the Gentiles.
Are you calling me two-faced?
No, I'm just saying I was ready to go Saul on you is all I'm saying. But no, Frudiger was a really cool guy. And I think that as a personal takeaway, that was one of my favorite things that happened, was being able to spark a friendship with somebody that I had never met before, and being and on a level that I could carry it away from the whole con experience. Because you make friends with people at cons, but then they're like con friends. You only talk to them again when you see them at a con again.
Right.
Whereas
That sounds so odd when you put it together, like they're con friends, like they're con artists or something.
I get it.
I've met a few of those.
But to be able to have a friend like, hey, we still talk, that was cool. And with wherever he's at, he was comfortable enough to talk to me on my level on some spiritual things when some post-con crap started happening that really made me want to stab somebody. But that's neither here nor there.
What?
Yeah, I'm sure.
No. Okay. Whatever.
He was leaving on a jet plane, and we weren't sure when he was going to get home again.
Yeah, that thing. Okay, yeah. Because American Airlines, they're there for you.
Except for when they're not.
Now, if they like to sponsor Geek Devotions, we'll cut this from the whole thing.
Oh,
just give me my refund and stop putting it on hold, you jerks.
Should we do the countdown? If you go and cut this off?
No, it'll be fine.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you're like, no, I legit need to cut that off because I want to get sued by a multi-billion-dollar company with our.
If I get sued by a multi-billion company for that line, that means that somebody's listening to this. And hello.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you for putting us on the news.
You are loved, and there's a plan for your life, and it's to give us lots of money.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Fruitiker, he was a cool mate. I like him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind discussing and talking with him a bit more. I need to visit his state anyhow because it's on my bucket list to visit every state capital or every state. So
hit up the show.
I'm definitely going to have him on playing games at some point. So
I can see that.
See, there's your solution. You're trying to get me. And it's like you got somebody else.
No, I will get you, Kevin.
It wins.
I will.
No, you won't.
You will be mine. Oh yes, you will be mine.
So,
No, but
okay.
I'd said it before and I'll say it again. Fruitiger actually reminds me a lot of Brian Posehn.
Yeah.
And I find that to be hilarious. So if you're listening, John, you're the man. For real.
I love John. John and I, we go back to Missouri together, and he was my best friend. And he got me into Spawn as a kid. And he was one of the few people I could talk to on a regular basis. So I was super excited to be able to chat with him at the con. I felt bad because I wasn't able to really host you guys as much as I wanted to, but we were at a con.
Ain't no thing, dude. Kevo and I, we kind of did our own thing, and that was fun too.
Cool beans.
He got you into Spawn. Oh my goodness, he got into those evil comics, the evil ones. That was a thing growing up. It's like they discussed how Spawn was one of the evil comics, and because there was I'm not sure the churches you guys went through or anything else, but there was a thing where they showed a dividing line of what was good comics, what were bad comics. Good comics was like the Stan Lee, Marvel, and some DC. The bad comics was like the vertical DC, like Watchmen, and the other Marvel, which is like Ghost Rider. Because
here's the thing, Kevo.
That's an old thing.
I grew up in a church that strongly promoted the idea of having your own standards and knowing your own boundaries and establishing your own convictions, which is the reason why I'm so well versed in that ideology and why I push that as hard as I do.
Yep.
So I never had that. I grew up very much when it comes to matters of Christianity. So Christianity has this bad reputation of being dogmatic and just swallowing things without thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
what? No.
I've never had that. I've been brought up in a church atmosphere that was completely think for yourself. I don't remember which specific church it was that Paul talks about, but they're like, he would preach things and they would go directly to the Bible and make sure what's coming across the pulpit's true. And
The Bereans.
And that's kind of been the anchor for me. It's just like, I get something across the pulpit. If someone says something, I'm going to check it out, because I don't accept anything at face value.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, guys, we're straying a little bit everywhere, just like our panel at Geek'd Con. So
this is what we do, bro.
Any
We're
final
everywhere.
thoughts on
No,
Geek'd
we're
Con?
right here. I'm right here looking at you through a video, discussing with us through my podcast mic, and fantastic.
I'm so glad
Wi-Fi.
you have your video on, because you are a good looking boy. You are the best boy.
I'm a man. Not a
So
boy.
any final thoughts on Geek'd Con before we go off to another segment of the show? This is the longest episode of Comm Talk ever.
Hey, you know what?
Oh,
this is what's going to happen when you have Kevin and I on the same show. So
Indeed.
Final thoughts on Geek'd Con. It was good. It has ruined my internal calendar.
Mine too.
And as long as I'm not flying American Airlines again, I will probably do it again if Geek Devotions is going to be there. And it was a good time.
Sweet.
I'm so tired.
I just want to especially thank Mr. Greg Adams for having the whole con, because without him, we probably wouldn't have the con there at Shreveport. So that's always lovely and grand, and also everyone else that was part of it, which I thank you too. It's always nice that we had a table, or you two had it. We all had a table, whatever. We had a table, and was able to discuss and talk with people. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I spent more time around the floor than I thought I was, because I know I came back several times to the table to see, but apparently every time I came, that was when John already finished relieving you guys. I'm like, okay, well, I guess if everyone else is going to do the work for me, I don't need to come back. Talking to certain celebrities is awesome. Certain celebrities, I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to pray for you, and I'm not going to say I'm praying for you. I'm just going to, just let the Holy Spirit go from there.
Good plan.
Yeah.
Jesus loves you. Everybody else thinks you're a jerk.
Yeah, I know. Everyone else probably thinks I'm a jerk. You know what? I probably am, and I'm okay.
No,
with
sir.
That.
I think you're my favorite.
I once heard an elderly lady say to somebody, goes, Jesus just says I have to love you. Doesn't mean I have to like you.
That sounds like something a Southerner would say.
I'm gonna tell you, I got some very similar advice when I was a teenager up here. So it's not just a Southern thing, bro.
They'd say it to you while they're serving you a glass of ice cold tea.
No, they said it to me while they were running youth group.
Yeah, eating pierogies or something.
All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you guys for being on today's show. I want to encourage everyone who's listening, make sure you guys check out The Bottom Shelf, where you can find more of this mayhem, just talking about terrible movies. And check your RSS feed, because coming soon will be a special Geek'd Con episode, where which is John interviewing people from Geek'd Con and asking them about their favorite terrible movie. So, John, Kevin, thank you guys so much for being here with us. And let's go on to the next segment of the show. All right. And as I said in the beginning, this is actually a portion of what was going to be a longer podcast. The next portion of the show is actually us ending the show. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you are encouraged by our conversation today, let us know. Reach out to us. You can find us on any of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just look for Geek Devotions. And hey, take part of our community. Take part of the Geek Devotions community through our Facebook group called Devoted Geek Life and our Discord channel. If you want to have more information about John and Kevin and myself and Branson, who will be in next week's episode in The Bottom Shelf, make sure you check out The Bottom Shelf on Facebook and on Instagram. But The Bottom Shelf podcast, really the conversation you guys heard today is very similar, except for we're talking about terrible movies. That being said, hey, thanks for listening. Hope this has encouraged you. And hey, until next time, stay devoted. Peace and love.